So I have started on the long, arduous journey towards 4K videos by testing out 1440p videos on YouTube, but they were not videos recorded in 1440p because I can't quite do that right now. Well, technically that's not true. I can probably do it as soon as I rip my machine apart. I'll talk about that a little more later. What I've been testing at the moment is upsampling 1080p footage into 1440p to see what effect that has. And I started with Dishonored 2 Death of the Insider. I played enough to make 2 episodes and I edited the footage, upsampled it to 1440p. I'll show you the properties. As you can see, width 2560, height 1440p, even though the actual footage itself is 1080p. So this is an upsampled project. I then started to try and render this using the standard codec I've been using, which is the Sony AVC codec. It is not this one. Let me just show you. I'm sure nobody's interested, but I'm going to show you anyway. This one here, I was trying to render it with this, and it just kept crashing. It kept crashing. So I then switched to the main concept codec, which is a very similar codec, and tried that. That was going to take about 13 hours to render on my render rig. It would be a little quicker on this rig. This is my gaming rig, but my render rig, the one I usually leave rendering things whilst I'm working on this rig, was going to take about 13 hours. It is a weaker system. It only has an i5-3570, which is not brilliant for this sort of thing, but that is obviously just way too long. So what I did was load up that project in Vegas Pro 15, which is a more up-to-date version of the same software. Now, if you're wondering why are you not using that anyway, I have a lot of issues with this program crashing. I say a lot of issues. Once every hour or so, the program will just crash and I will lose all progress when editing and importing video clips. It's not the end of the world, but it is annoying, and I did lose several hours of work over a few week period, and so I switched back to Vegas Pro 12. However, I think I'm going to spend a little more time trying to fix the stability issues I had with Vegas Pro 15 because it would seem rendering with this program is a much better idea because it has a few new codecs, specifically the one I'm looking at, Magic AVC, and it uses the NVIDIA NVENC codec. Now, I've had mixed results using this with other programs, but I tried it with this particular program with full 1440p settings and it worked brilliantly actually. It took about 2 hours to do a 45-50 minute video. It's on the other rig it took about 2.5 hours for the same thing, maybe closer to about, for every hour it seems it takes about 3 hours of render on the other rig. That's perfectly acceptable. And the finished file I feel was a little better quality than my usual videos. I was really quite impressed with it. So it's not like I actually lost anything by switching to this. So rendering 1440p videos is definitely a viable option for me. And in this case, rendering 1080p footage into 1440p videos is viable. So of course, the next big question is, was there any improvement once I actually uploaded this to YouTube? Remember, the footage is 1080p and upscaling to 1440p does not actually make the image look any better in the video that I make here. Well, my first impression was not really very much. It was difficult to tell. I kept opening up a frame and then just switching between 1080p and 1440p, and I wasn't noticing a huge difference. This is not a total shock, seeing as the actual recorded resolution is 1080p in both cases, so I wasn't seeing a massive difference. However, when I did look in very dark areas or at any foliage, and there's not a lot in this game, but when I found foliage and looked at it, I could see the artifacting. I can see the blurring quite easily. And when I switch to 1440p, it does clear up slightly in certain areas. Not a huge amount. It's a little blurry here, and when I switch to 1440p it is a little sharper, but not much, and it's probably very difficult for you to tell on this video because of course you're looking at compressed video of compressed video from YouTube, so this is probably going to be impossible to tell, but I could detect a little improvement, and I thought to myself, perhaps this sort of process will have a bigger effect on something like Skyrim. So I decided to record some footage in the swampy area near to Solitude and check out the grass and the trees. And I uploaded this to YouTube and I could see the difference very clearly. The grass was a lot sharper and there was a lot less artifacting in trees and branches. It's actually quite noticeable. If you go and watch the video, I'll probably have the video playing here, but I actually uploaded the video and I made it public so you could check it out yourself. Switching between 1080p to 1440p does improve the quality in areas like this noticeably. And I'm going to remind you, this is with footage that is 1080p in both cases. When you're looking at it in 1080p or 1440p, the original footage was only 1080p, so you wouldn't expect that big a difference, and it was quite noticeable. It's also noticeable in dark areas. So what does this mean? Well, basically I think it means depending on the game it may be worthwhile upsampling to 1440p on 1080p footage, but for some other games there's probably no point uploading 1440p game footage unless you recorded it in 1440p. The thing is, my capture card has just arrived, so that's the next test. In fact, for the next test, what I'm actually going to do is just make sure the thing's working at 1080p, so I'm probably going to record Death of the Insider episode 3 at 1080p, but on the new card, and if it works, I'm going to see if I can record in 1440p, and then downsample to my monitor. I may not be able to do that. I'm going to have to see how it works. If I can do that, I will do it, and then I'll run a proper 1440p test. That should actually show a marked difference between 1440 and 1080, especially if you're watching it on a higher resolution monitor, because there will just be a lot more data for the codecs to work with. So I'm expecting that will make a bit of a difference for 1080p viewers and a lot of a difference for 1440p users once I get it working. But the big question now is the existing 1080p videos that I've got, and I'm thinking specifically of Skyrim Special Edition, is it worth upscaling to 1440p? I finished chapter 1. And it's all rendered and ready to upload and go. I got it all out of the way before I started messing around with my system. I didn't want to interfere with that chapter. But there is a difference in Skyrim. It is something that you can see, and it may be worth me upscaling all of the rest of the videos, re-rendering them, and it looks like my system can handle that now. I may be able to get that done. I can't promise I can, but I'm thinking I'm going to try. I'm going to try and get the next few done in 1440p. If I don't get the very next episode, please don't shout at me. Maybe the episode after that. I will upscale them and hopefully you will get a little better quality in dark areas or with foliage. For Chapter 2, hopefully by then I will have all of the new systems sorted. I'll be able to record at 1440p, and I'll have even got myself a monitor that can handle that, so I won't even need to downsample to my monitor, and I will actually have proper, true 1440p videos for Skyrim Special Edition. And I honestly think that is going to be a noticeable improvement. Just checking the difference between 1080p and 1440p on 1080p footage is noticeable. So with actual 1440p footage, it should be quite nice to watch, even in areas that traditionally are bad for Skyrim YouTube videos. So, quick summary of everything. The 1080p to 1440p upsampling has some benefits, and I think I may do re-render the Skyrim Special Edition videos I've got left for Chapter 1, and in fact it's quite a lot. We're only about halfway through the chapter, so you will get a bit of a boost in the quality if you've got the internet to handle it. For Dishonored to Death of the Insider, I'm going to continue upscaling, even though I don't think it actually has much of a benefit. But I'm going to continue to do that because as of episode, I hope, 4, it will actually be truly 1440p, and there will be an improvement in the image anyway, so I may as well. It's good news all round. There does seem to be some benefit for some games to upscaling, and 1440p looks like a viable option for my current rig with its new graphics card. So as soon as I can start recording 1440p, I may as well just make that switch. After that, the next goal is 4K. That's going to be a whole new jump in quality and also a whole new demand on both my render rig and your internet, because it does have a far higher bitrate. But of course that is the end game. That's where I want to aim. Will I get there anytime soon? I do not think so. I think that's something that's a while away, shall we say. However, I now have the capture card to play and capture such footage, and I may still upgrade my render rig because it is quite old. The CPU is not really the best one for rendering and streaming and that sort of thing, so I may still upgrade it, but there's less pressure to upgrade it because it looks like currently it's capable of handling 1440p. So that's good news. That's it. That's me just trying to keep you up to date with my experimentation and messing around. So there you go. Sorry if I've rambled on and on. You're probably used to it by now.